So basically, pivot table is a way to essentially create crosstabs. What we have right here is a list of all 770 Major League Baseball players, which is one of the simple databases I use to kind of teach this stuff. And so every player with their salary, their team, and their league is listed here. If I wanted to find out what the total payroll was by team, or the average salary by team, or the average salary by position, all these different permutations, you can use a pivot table for it. So if I want the 770 player names to be organized into the average of their salaries by team, you will start with a spreadsheet of 770 names, and you'll end up with this pivot table report of 30 entries in each with the average. So that's the concept behind pivot tables. For our data here, what we want, we want to find the number of loans by city, or maybe the average loan by NAICS code. I don't know what all these NAICS codes are. That's kind of the next step. But if we want to find out which industry groups were getting the biggest ones, that could be something that might be interesting. Or we might want to see the total amount of money going into flowing into zip codes. So total by industry. So we're going to be using this column and this column. We don't do anything we don't define the columns or anything like that. But what we just know that that's what we're going to need. We're going to need column E, NAICS code, and column A, loan amount. So I'm going to find insert, and then insert pivot table. And the first thing it does is you can see that there is this moving dashed line around it. And you can see that it's filled in this information here, and what it is guessing you want to be the block of cells that you want to copy or that you want to analyze. And usually it gets it right, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it got it right. So we know that we want to do our analysis on all the data that goes from this worksheet, from cell A2, which is the uppermost left cell, so everything from A2 to E350,000 is basically what it's doing. So it's correctly guessed what I want to do my analysis on. I'm just going to click OK, and then it gives me this pivot table wizard box, or whatever we want to call it. And then you can see over here, it's giving me. This is where you decide how you want to set the pivot table up. And I know that what I want is I want something that shows me each row is a NAICS code, and then the second column for each row is the total amount of money flowing to that NAICS code. So I'm going to click NAICS code, and I'm going to click loan amount. Sometimes it sets things properly. It guesses where you want them. This case, it didn't. And so what I need to do is I need to manually drag this NAICS code over to rows. So now we have all the NAICS codes here, and we have the sum of the loan amount here. And you can see some of these have decimal points, some of them don't, and it's not in currency format. So I'm going to put the entire thing in currency format. And then from here, we could do a simple biggest to smallest sort. And we can see that NAICS code 722511, pulled in $450 million. So who knows what that is? We could find that out pretty quickly. 722511. I'm just going to look that up really quickly.
It's restaurants. That's what it is for Kentucky too, the top one.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so yesterday somebody shared the NAICS code lookup, and the thing we'll probably work on tomorrow is how to merge the NAICS code number with the NAICS code name, so you don't have to kind of continually do these lookups. So we know that the NAICS code, this is the total number of NAICS, total number of loans total dollars that are going into that. If we didn't want to look at the total dollars, but we wanted to find out, what the average size of loans were to restaurants, then you can go down here, down to the lower right-hand corner, and then click on this thing called Value Field Settings, and you can switch it to whichever function you want. You can switch it to the average. You can switch it to the count, so the number of loans. Average is the average of the loans. That's the mean average. You can switch it to the max, so you'll know that for each NAICS code, this is the one loan that had the highest amount. You can switch it to the min. And then all these other things, standard deviation things that don't really come into play with the journalism that we're doing. But I'm going to say I just want to do the average. And I'm going to click on OK. And then it switches, and then we can see that NAICS code 332117 had the highest average amount of loans. 332117 is powder metallurgy part manufacturing. Okay, and then we could say we don't want to look at NAICS codes, but we want to look at cities. It's easy to switch things around. So now I just switched the NAICS code into the city name. You can see we have Orlando that has a 0 as opposed to an O. That's why it's up here all by itself as opposed to with all the other Orlandos. But we could just do I want to do the sum of all the loans. We can guess that Miami will be first and Tampa will be second and Orlando third, I'm guessing. Nope, not quite. Miami, Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville. So more than a billion went into Miami companies, 500 million went to Orlando companies, and so forth. We can make this a little more complicated if we want to. We can basically pull the loan amount. We can have two loan amounts and have one of them be the sum and the another one be the count. So I'm just going to switch this one to count and get rid of the currency format because these are numbers, not dollar amounts. So now we know that we have, in Miami, we have 36,000 loans for a total of $1 billion. We could switch the total amount to the average amount. This is the display I wanted to show you. So now we know that Miami had a total of 36,000 loans and the average amount of the loans was $30,000. These averages all seem to kind of be about the same by city, the 30,000 range.